So we are here today with Rob Roadman. We're in Stuart, Florida. Rob is a 38-year member of Florida Bandmasters Association and a past president. And in the next little while, we're going to try to get to know Rob just a little bit better. Mr. Roadman, why did you decide to become a band director? And what were the circumstances that began your band journey?
Well, for me, it was a process. It was not any one thing. It was a number of things. All throughout my career in band, and I started in 6th grade at Fort Pierce Elementary School with Harold Supek. Band was special, very special. And I probably practiced more in beginning band than any other time of my life. The junior high experience, I was not a real dedicated bandsman, but as I look back on it, there were things in there that I'd think about, boy, you know, I would do that differently if I were the band director. And I was a kid, what did I know? But, and then when I got to high school, band became magical for me. I was going to quit band after junior high. My parents, God bless them, would not let me. They said, you're going to do it for a year and decide. The first day of preschool marching band camp, I fell in love with it. And from then on, it was just, there was no question. That's what I was going to be a part of. Never thinking that I would be a band director. My plan was to own a chain of Roadman's music stores and, you know, major in music merchandising and do wonderful things with that and retire on a chalet in the mountainsides of North Carolina by the time I was 30, you know.
Absolutely.
But again, it was a process. And college was wonderful. Frank Wicks was someone who inspired me greatly, and after I finally decided, I guess during my sophomore year of college, that it was my sophomore year of college, I went back to a Fort Pierce Central High School football game, and after the game, I was standing down there on the track listening to the band play and thinking, you know, this has been a part of my life forever. Well, not forever, for you know, a number of years, and I don't want to do without this anymore. And that was when I decided to change my intended major from business to music. And also taking an economics course was a major influence because that's the most boring class I ever took in my life. And I didn't want to do that again.
Absolutely. Well, where did you then begin your teaching career? And kind of walk us through where you went from there.
I had a wonderful first job. P.K. Young Laboratory School in Gainesville was looking for a band director, and at the time I was graduating, I interviewed everywhere, you know, but it's the old game, you don't have experience so we can't hire you. P.K. Young was willing to take a chance, and it was considered a half-time position. The salary was $4,050 for the year. That was what I made that first year teaching. Taught a lot of private lessons. But anyway, that was a K through 12 teaching experience. So I had everything from the high school band all the way down to kindergarten general music. And it was, you know, the beginning bands, you name it, I did it all. And it was a wonderful first year. Had some great students. Rodney Dorsey, who is now at the University of Oregon, was a 6th grader in that band. And when he was in 6th grade, I moved him up to the high school band because he was so good. And that was a wonderful teaching experience. I loved P.K. Young. I went there 1 year. And then they developed an assistant band director position at Gainesville High School, where Martha Stark had been the band. Well, she was hired at Gainesville the same year I was hired at P.K. Young. And so she asked me if I'd be interested in being the assistant. And that was marvelous, too.
Absolutely.
I spent 2 years there. Martha was, as Frank Wicks used to call her, a Pied Piper. She just had this magical ability to draw people to her, and pretty stinking good musician too.
Yes.
So I spent 2 years with Martha at Gainesville High, and that was also valuable. I had the second band and the jazz band, and even taught some PE, which made me realize I had to move on. So after a couple years there, then Martin County High School came open, went to Martin County, stayed there basically the rest of my career, save for 1 year when I was given a sabbatical to go to graduate school. And had a great time at Martin County.
And quite a history there too, musically. I was one of those people that got to appreciate you from afar, and since we're a number of miles apart, but yes, quite a reputation there. Had some strong, strong bands.
You know, some years were better than others. I mean, I can name about 5 years that I would put up there with anybody, but other years that were just, you know, we maintained and were adequate. Never really had a bad year there. Right. So I'm blessed and I'm thankful for that. And
longevity says a lot. It really does. So what challenges did you encounter along the way as a band director?
Well, all the usual people challenges, you know, trying to motivate kids, that some of whom didn't want to be there, trying to get parents to grasp what we did, trying to get administration to buy into what you wanted to do. You know, those challenges I think everybody faces in a different way. But I think the biggest challenges I had were after I got to Martin County. Twice during the 31 years I was there, we had a new high school open up, which depleted our student population in the band program. And after my 3rd year at Martin County, when we had been the only high school in the county, and everybody was there, double sessions and the whole bit, then South Fork High School opened up after my 3rd year and took literally half my band away. And so you had to start rebuilding, because it was just starting to get good after that 3rd year. And so then, boom, start over. And then the last, I guess, 6 or 8 years of my career, they opened Jensen Beach High School, which again, we took a hit on that, and so it made the end of my career a bit of a challenge, but we managed to survive and have a couple of really good years in there. Those are the biggies, and then the curriculum changes. I could preach a sermon, I won't. I mean, we are in a church, but I won't preach a sermon. The curriculum changes, going to 4x4 block scheduling and all those types of things. It sounds good on paper, but I never felt like it really worked. And you were fighting so many different things to get kids into your program, kids that you wanted, kids who may wanted to be there. But curriculum was certainly another issue that I saw as a challenge.
True around the state.
Yes.
So I'd like to get personal with you here just for a moment and have you look into yourself and see, is there one thing, or maybe two things, about your personal character that you would say enabled you to achieve the high level of musical excellence that you achieved over the years?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think the gene pool I inherited had a stubborn, you will do this side, and you will not fail at this. That certainly is a part of who I am. The fear of failure is huge with me. Insecurity perhaps was a factor, because I was scared to death, especially in the early years, to be unsuccessful. So I was going to do whatever it takes to have success. And I spent an awful lot of time doing my homework. Certainly those are factors, but I also think the upbringing I had from my family, my faith, I think is vital to who I was, who I am, and who I will be. My dad, although he was in business and not full-time, he pastored a small church in Mangonia Park, Florida for 10 years when I was growing up. And so I grew up as something of a preacher's kid. And, you know, the faith that my family helped instill in me certainly impacted everything I did on the job and off, I think, at least hopefully.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. So looking at your career overall, can you look back at any one particular moment that might have been a pivotal moment in making you determine exactly what was going to happen with your career?
One, probably not, but I'll try to keep it brief. Again, that's a process, I think, that, at least for me, life has been a process in my journey musically, educationally, spiritually, what have you. I remember early in my career when I was teaching in Gainesville, they used to have what they called the old Gatorland band camp.
I remember.
And I had a house, 3-bedroom house that I was renting in Gainesville, and I was there alone for a year. And Jack Crew was brought in to do one of the bands at the Gatorland camp, and Tom Bishop, both of whom are just legend band directors in this state.
Icons.
And they crashed with me at the house. And I think it was my second year teaching. And you want to talk an education jammed into a week. You know, all the free time, we'd just sit and talk band. We'd go out to dinner and talk band. We'd sit there and in the house and talk band. And they just keep putting things into my brain. That was pivotal. And Jack Crew kind of adopted me when I was early on, even in my early years at Martin County. And I spent a lot of time with Jack, and he helped shape what you do to become a good band director. And I think those people perhaps helped to shape me in great ways. And that would be my answer.
Well, Jack has certainly had his impact on so many of us in the state of Florida.
Huge.
What an icon in our midst.
He's a giant.
Truly is. And I can certainly see how that weekend could have had an impact on your life.
Oh, man, it was
with,
great.
With those two guys. So, what concepts did you have to instill in your students in order for them to achieve their quality of music? I know we kind of reflected on that just now a little bit, I believe, with your faith and your fear of failure, but other things that might have been concepts that you needed to get them to understand.
Well, they knew what I believed. And one of the things that we always did at the end of every football game, we always played Amazing Grace in the stands. That was the last thing we played, a beautiful arrangement of it. And it became quite an event at our football games. People would come down to the band after the game to hear us play Amazing Grace, and that was nice. So I wanted them to be aware of my faith without hitting them over the head with a 200-pound King James. Because, we're supposed to let our light shine where we can. And so I wanted to do that. But musically, things that I wanted to instill in them: discipline in rehearsal. I really do not know of a high school band that required less after-school rehearsal time of their students than I did, especially after I got a little better at what I was doing. Early on, I worked them to death because I was learning it, along the way. But I found out that my preparation would carry over into their preparation. And then the skills I wanted them to have were, of course, rhythmic skills. I wanted them to understand style and expression. But the biggest thing that I tried to get them to grasp was it's about the sound. Jack taught me that too. It is about as Jack used to say, the sonorities. With his little whistle. But sonority was what it was about. And the majority of what we did in rehearsal was about sound. It was about phrasing. It was about style, more than it was about beating notes and rhythms. But notes and rhythms are the bricks. They're not the Taj Mahal at the end.
Absolutely. And what you're dealing there with the tone quality is the foundation. Without that, it just doesn't happen. And your kids learned that, obviously.
Well, yeah, again, some years more than others did it become a part of them, but overall, pound for pound, they did pretty well.
So overall, during your career, what did you do in order to keep your edge, in order to keep your passion flowing?
A lot of things. For me, in the school where I taught in this part of Florida, which I once lovingly referred to as the armpit of Florida, there's not a whole lot of culture here. There's not a whole lot of models close by. So I relied on recordings quite a bit. And not just band recordings, orchestra recordings, choir recordings, solo artists, Luciano Pavarotti. I would listen to him. I would listen to soloists. I became a real junkie for one of the cultural things we have is a fine arts station, a public radio station in Fort Pierce at Indian River State College. And I would listen to the evening symphonies that they would broadcast all the time. And That was back in the days of cassette tape recording being the high-end
I remember
technology.
those.
And I still have cassette recordings of the Chicago Symphony, the Milwaukee Symphony, the Boston Symphony that I still pull out and listen to. So listening to recordings was important. I think it's vital you get out of where you are, go away. Went to a conducting symposium that they used to have at the University of South Florida. And I needed it for recertification, so I decided, what the heck, I'd rather do that than jump through all the hoops that you can jump through to recertify locally.
Yes.
And Mallory Thompson was great, Tom
Yes.
Lee was great, and Larry Ratcliffe absolutely helped change my life. So getting out and doing things like that, I think, are vital, and putting things in your mind that are good. 2 books helped me greatly. One called Note Grouping by Thurmond is a great book.
Absolutely.
I think every musician should read that more than once.
There should be a course in college.
There should. There really should. It's that good. And thank God Frank Wicks turned me on to that when I was in grad school at LSU. And another book that I read most of, it's translated from German by the great conductor Bruno Walter. It's called Of Music and Music Making. And that book was wonderful because he talks about all the things that you have to do to be a complete musician and conductor. And he goes into the fact that you've got to understand the spiritual side of life. You've got to do your homework and understand the scholarly side of things. And it was an eye-opener for me. So doing things like that, listening, reading, getting out, going to the clinics at FMEA, the clinics at Midwest, if you can go to Midwest. I only went 4 times, but you know what? I came away with valuable stuff every time I went. So those are the things I do.
Those are words of wisdom, Mr. Roadman. Truly they are. Thank you for bringing them to us. So now, what do you do in your retirement to keep your creative juices flowing? I know they have to still be flowing.
Yeah, to a degree. Unfortunately, when you retire, people think you've forgotten everything you know. So I work with some local bands now and then, not that much.
Mm-hmm.
Find a lot of the younger conductors really don't want to have older guys in there, so okay. There's a few who will invite me in to listen or to conduct and actually get on the podium. I've done a couple of honors bands since I retired, but most of my creative side has switched actually to vocal music. And we're in my church now doing this, but I have been a member of the choir in my churches since the early 80s, and after I retired, I decided, if I'm going to be singing more than playing or conducting, I need to get good at it. So we had a wonderful, wonderful vocal teacher right here at our church. She's got a master's in voice from Eastman, and her name was Betty Saunders, who unfortunately is now not doing well, and she's not teaching anymore. But I took voice lessons from her for 1.5 years and really learned a lot and grew a lot as a singer. And my goal was to someday sing a solo in church. And so I got to do that before she was taken ill. And but singing is more what it's about for me now than the instrumental side.
I totally agree with that. It's a very important thing in, I think, instrumentalist life to understand the vocal side of it, the vocal phrasings. And, when you translate vocal phrasings into instrumental phrasings, it makes all the difference in the world to your band.
A number of years ago, and I'm getting a little off topic
That's
here.
okay.
But there was a piece that everybody did, O Magnum Mysterium,
Yes.
and great piece. I love it. I mean, in fact, I'm doing that with an honors band in a few weeks. But when I first discovered the piece, I heard the Stetson Band under Bobby Adams play that at a FBA summer conference, and I just immediately fell in love with it. I had to do the piece. And so I was telling our vocal director at Martin County High School, Ronald Corbin, I was telling him about it. He goes, "Yeah, that's the vocal piece." He goes, "Here, let me burn you a recording." He gave me a recording of the Los Angeles Master Chorale, which is just a breathtaking ensemble. And I listened to that, and it was like it just awakened a whole new chamber of my mind and my heart as to the beauty of that piece. Yeah, vocal music. So I'm trying to bring this back to the point. Vocal music, you need to know it. You need to know music. It's not just being as I heard what is his name? John Painter said in
Yes.
'86 when he was the all-state band conductor, don't be a blankety-blank band director, be a musician.
Yep.
And I think the vocal side really did a lot for me, and I would recommend that everybody sing in your church choir. If you don't have one, join one.
Thank you for that. So, as you have considered your history in music, do you have any words of wisdom beyond what you just said, or advice that you can pass on to future directors?
Well, again, this could be an hour-long answer, but I'll keep it brief. I remember going to, when I was inducted into the ASBDA back in the 80s, early 80s, Francis Macbeth, the composer Francis Macbeth, was the guest speaker at the national convention, which was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I remember he gave a very inspirational talk to the band directors. But at the end of it, he said something that I have never forgotten. He says, if you want to be a successful band director, you got to know your stuff. Well, that's a deep topic. He says, second, you got to love the people that you're hired to stuff. You know, you got to love them.
Yes.
And three, stuff them. And, you know, that kind of sums it up. I mean, each one of those is a very deep topic. But, yeah, we have to know what we're doing. Preparation, education is an ongoing process. I mean, I learned far more after I got out of college than I ever did in college. And that even was true in graduate school, you know, where I was the guinea pig for the conducting degree at LSU. It was an ongoing learning process, but it all boils down to those three things. Know your stuff, love the people. I mean, we teach people. We don't teach a subject. We teach people.
Yes.
You know, and that's, gosh, that's a challenge every day. That's exciting every day. Sometimes annoying every day. But, you know, it's a blessing. I mean, thank the Lord that I had the chance to do that. But you got to fill them up with as much as you possibly can. Frank Wicks used to say, you take a student where they are, and you take them as far as you possibly can in the amount of time you have and in the conditions that you are living with and wherever you teach. And so those two mindsets, I think, have brought me to the place where I would tell young conductors, know your stuff, love your kids, fill them up with as much information as you can. Work hard. This is not a 9-to-5 job. But, as an aside, you've got to get away from it once in a while. If you try to live this 24/7, which I did as a kid, a young band director, you'll burn yourself out. And I've seen so many talented people that had much better brains and much better ears than I got, that didn't make it. Mm-hmm. They put in 5 years and it was like, no, I got to do something else. Yeah. So you've got to get away from it. Have something else you can do that you enjoy, so that you take little mental vacations, or maybe even a little mental vacation in the middle of the day. You know, turn off your cell phone. It's okay. You'll live without it. You know, do something that you enjoy. Go canoeing. Go bowling, play golf. I keep trying to play golf, and it just has never been that successful. But find something else to get your mind away from the job, because the job can consume you.
Yes, it can. Words of wisdom, Mr. Roadman. Thank you. And now, to kind of close, I want you to look back over all the stories, and we all have stories, things that you can use to illustrate a point, but perhaps one short story that would demonstrate your satisfaction with having chosen the life that you chose as a band director.
You know, if I had it all to do again, I would not do anything else. When we're starting out, we don't know. We're in discovery mode, and we don't know what this career is going to bring. We just know it takes a lot of time, and it's not as easy as you think it's going to be. And you're walking into your first job, the band room is peeling because it hadn't been painted in 22 years, and you don't have a single All-State player living within 40 miles. You know, so it when you're in discovery mode, it's scary. Now, having the benefit of having spent 34 years in the profession and looking back on it, it's the greatest profession. I wouldn't do anything else. I mean, I literally thank God that I had the chance to do this and be around the people I was around. Was it frustrating at times? Sure. So's flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. Whatever you do, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be people that are difficult and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, look in the mirror and, at the end of the day, I'd hit my knees and just say, thank you, Lord. I had this opportunity today and I hope I did okay. And I get to do it again tomorrow. And almost every day, I got excited about getting up and going to work. But I'm off topic. Sorry, I do that. I ramble. If there is one short story that absolutely convinced me it was the right profession for me, it's when I was still in college at the University of Florida. They used to have, I don't know if they still do or not, what they called the President's Festival of Music. And the orchestra had a week, the chorus had a week, the band had a week, the jazz band had a week. And we had in the symphonic band, we had Arnold Gabriel come in. And he conducted the Pines of Rome, which that moment on the concert changed me. I mean, the man had such expressive hands. And I don't remember what he did, but I don't remember where it is. If I listened to a recording, I could go, that was the moment. Yes. He did some gesture that I felt all the education I had ever received, all the things that I'd been taught, all of a sudden at that moment, it exploded inside me and it became real. And I knew from then on I was doing the right thing and I wanted to live to share a moment like that with my students. And there were a few that probably were close to that. I mean, I'm not Arnold Gabriel, but that would be a story that, and I hope everybody has a moment where that bell rings in your heart. But that's my story.
Well, that is what it's all about. When you see that you've touched the lives of the kids that are in your charge, and you can share that bit of music with them, it's a wonderful thing.
And a blessing.
It has been a pleasure to listen to you today and hear your words of wisdom. They are right there, and I know that the young directors that will be watching this will gain from what you have shared with us today.
Well, I hope it helps somebody be a little bit better at what we do, because there's a lot of people that influence all of us, and I've certainly had those that influence me, and hopefully this legacy project will help a lot of people.
Well, you are indeed a legacy. Thank you, Mr. Roadman.
Thank you very much.